Welcome to Dorcas Fashion Academy. My name is Dorcas Hammond and I will be teaching you how to make a pattern for a straight skirt. This basic pattern will be used to create any design that you can imagine. So let's get cracking. First of all, you need your waist and your hip measurements, your waist to hip measurement and your length. Waist is in the smallest part of your body. It's about 2 centimeters above your belly button. Hips is on the widest part that sometimes includes the beginning of your thigh. Waist to hips is where you measured the waist to the hips vertically. So we know what distance there was between the waist and the hips down. And length is the desired length of your skirt. This is going to be a straight skirt, but from this basic pattern you can make any different type of skirts. Full, gathered, circle. So from this pattern we will create everything that you have in your mind and modify this pattern so that we can make other designs. But first of all, we have to start with the basic pattern. A lot of different methods utilize the quartering of the amount. If we quarter the 80 centimeters, we would get 20 centimeters. Why quarter? Because the measurement has gone around your body and we only use half of the half, meaning a quarter. So if this is the whole body, this would be the back and this would be the front. So if this was 80, half of it would be 40 and half for the back would be 20 and half would be for the front. Over the years and experience that I've had, I have learned that if you make the front slightly bigger than the back, it looks so much better. So after 30 years, I have taken this decision to encompass this into our work method. So in the first place, if we quarter the waist, we would get 20. So instead of having 20 for the front and 20 for the back, we'll add on a centimeter for the front. We would have 21 and deduct 1 for the back. So we'd have 19. In this case, we'd still have the 40 for the half, making the front slightly bigger. The same applies to the hips. It's all on the circumference. So in this case, it would be 25, quartering the 100. The front would be 26 centimeters and the back would be 24. In this manner, the whole proportion is correct, adding a centimeter to the front and deducting a centimeter to the back. The waist to hips doesn't change because it's on a vertical, not around the body. And the length doesn't change either because that is entirely up to you. So let's get started. As you can see, I've drawn a line at the top of my page. What I've done is I folded my paper to be exact. This gives me a straight line. What we don't want it at an angle because at the end of the day your pattern will be lopsided. If you're not sure, even with an A4 paper, you can place it at the edge of your line and confirm with the side that it's exactly equal. We make the pattern both at the same time, the front on the right and the back on the left. And because we use our own measurements, we are confident that our pattern will fit properly. If you follow the instructions, you have to write top of page, center front, and center back. This avoids all confusions. But also, if you get into the habit of doing your patterns in this manner, once you start cutting your fabric with the fabric folded, you will always position your center front here and your center back here. So first of all, we start with our waist. We are going to imagine that this is just about where our belly button is, and this is above our bottom. So taking your waist front measurement, we will measure from the edge of the paper inwards, 21 centimeters. Then we will do the same on the opposite side, 19 centimeters. So basically this is your waist front and your waist back. So where do we put our hips? It's very simple. We know now where your hips were because we have measured from waist to hip downwards. In this case, it's 20 centimeters. So if you do a mark at 20 centimeters and you draw across, this is your hip line. So again, we go back to our measurements. Hips, front is 26, back is 24. So I will measure from the edge of the paper 26 and the back 24. Basically, this is the top part of your pattern done. We need the length. I have chosen 45. So from the top of our page, again, in the same manner as we did the 20, I'm doing the length, 45. 45. I will draw a line across, and this would be the bottom of my skirt. This measurement and this measurement, which is the hip measurement, I'm going to position right at the bottom in the same manner. This way our skirt will be square. 26 and 24. And I will square this out. Basically, this is your pattern nearly ready. It really hasn't been that difficult. If we were to join the waist with the hips, it would be a flat pattern, but we are not flat. So we have to include dots. How do we include them? We have to deduct a pinch here and a pinch here. But if we were to deduct it in this manner, our skirt would be small. So we have to allow 2 centimeters on either side so that later we can create our dot. So these two are 2 centimeters extra so that later we can remove it as a dot and it will still maintain the same waist circumference. With our curved ruler, we join our pattern. So basically this is your pattern ready. We are going to draw in the dots. From the outer measurement, measure the total and find the center. In our case, it would be 21 plus 2. So this is what it should be, 23. We find our center, 11.5, and draw a line. Same applies to the back. The back was 19 plus 2. The center is 10.5. Drawing a straight line down, 10 in the front and 12 at the back. This is your dot. The depth of your dot is going to be 2 centimeters, which you've already allowed. So it's 1 on either side. Same applies to the back. Now join in a triangle your dot And now your pattern is actually finished. As you can see, we are using half of the front and half of the back. If this was the center front of your body, it is the center front of your skirt. And this is the center back. These two would be cut either the back on double fabric with a seam at the back, which we'll talk about that later, and the front will be on a fold, keeping one whole piece for the front, but in double fabric. As you know, these patterns have been made with your own measurements. These do not include seam allowances. So we are going to prepare our seam allowances on our pattern. This, as you know, we made previously. This is our sewing gauge. You can either make them yourself or you can buy them from our shop. These have 1 centimeter, 2, 3 and 4, and they're very easy to use. At the waist is not going to change. So we are going to only leave 1 centimeter. The sides are our backup seam allowances. If you don't know what seam allowances is if you make the pattern in your measurements and you cut it down your seam, when you sew it, it's going to be smaller. So what we do is we allow extra so that we can either tack or sew where we are supposed to, and always having a backup of extra seam allowance, especially at the beginning. This way you won't be scared to cut. So for starters, I will use my sewing gauge to allow 1 centimeter at the top. I will allow 3 on the sides, and I will allow 4 on the hem. You cannot imagine how well fitting these patterns are because you're using your own measurements. It's very scary when you buy a shop bought pattern and however many times you measure your pattern, you really are not confident, especially at the beginning, on whether it's going to fit or not. This type of pattern, if you measure correctly, you will be for certain having a right fitting skirt. Now we have seam allowances at the top, on the sides, and I will add this at the bottom. The front, in this case, I want it on a fold. I want a complete pattern, so I will write fold. The back seam, I will write seam, but as you can see now, there's no seam allowances. Once you get the hang of this, you can draw a 3 centimeter line and commence your pattern from the line inwards, because we do have extra here. Obviously, depending on the size of your pattern, but if not, it's not a problem. We will cut a piece of paper of 3 centimeters and add it here, marking our 21 centimeters for our zip. 21 because we have 1 for the opening, 20 for the zip. Whoops. And maybe if you want a slit or a fold, you can also mark your opening here. Well, this is it. I hope that you've understood the pattern and that now you are confident in trying to make one on your own. If you would like to learn more about pattern cutting and pattern drafting, please click on the link below.